the outcomes of the online segment of the BRS COPs. My name is Marilyn Beau. I'm a program officer in the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. And this is my pleasure today to provide this briefing to you on the outcomes of the online segment. So as you would know by now, the format of the 2021-2022 COPs is in two parts or two segments because it wasn't possible to organize the BRS COPs in July 2021 as originally planned, as face-to-face, as you know, in Geneva, because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation and the related restrictions. Therefore, in agreement with the bureaus, it was decided to organize the BRS COPs in two segments, with a first segment that was online and which was held from the 26th to the 30th of July 2021. And the second segment of the meetings, which would be conducted face-to-face in June 2022 in Geneva. So the COPs, both parts of the COPs would be conducted also under the overarching theme that you have on the slide, which is global agreements for healthy planet, sound management of chemicals and waste. And this global or overarching theme will be used also during side events and will be the main motto of the BRS COPs. So with now turning specifically to the online segment, you have on the slide the main highlights of this online segment, which, as I said before, was conducted during the last week of July, so around 2 months ago. The attendance in the online segment of the COPs was very good, with a total of participants which reached 1,300 people and represented around 160 parties and 110 observers. So a very good attendance overall. As you know, the online segment also of the COPs focused on adopting a set of prioritized and time-sensitive decisions that aimed at the continuation of the work under the conventions in 2022. Following the online segment, as you might have already seen, 3 follow-up letters were sent to parties and observers, which set out calls for information or for comments on products in the extended intersessional period, comments that would then be compiled and put in front of the COPs for their consideration during the face-to-face segment. But we will go back to the issue of the extended intersessional period in a few minutes. Regarding the reports of the meetings during their online segment, the English versions of the reports would be made available on the website by the end of the month, while the languages versions of the reports would be made available towards the end of the year. And in general, you find lots of relevant information about the online segment, like the press release and other things, webinars on outcomes on our website, as it's mentioned on the slide. Now, more specifically turning to the main outcomes of the online segments, the main outcome of the segment was really the adoption of interim budgets for the conventions for the year 2022. Each COP adopted interim budget for the year 2022, pending the adoption of full budgets for the biennium 2022-2023, which is expected to be made at the face-to-face segment in June 2022. So the interim budgets for 2022 are composed of 2 parts, if you wish. The core interim budget for 2022, which covers really the most essential elements of the work under the conventions to allow the continuation of the work in 2022. in addition to those most essential elements, you have also two elements that are new, let's say, which are not so much a continuation of the work, but are new, but have been seen as essential for the continuation of the work of the conventions. And those elements are a meeting of the Rotterdam Convention Compliance Committee, and also a provision for the support of the work of the Stockholm Convention Effectiveness Evaluation that is starting in 2022. So the interim budget for 2022 is to be funded from parties' assessed contributions, as well as host country contributions, depending on the conventions. So that is for the first part of the interim budgets. The second part of the interim budgets is composed of a supplementary budget for 2022, which is expected to fund the costs of meetings of the COPs, meetings of subsidiary bodies that were postponed from the biennium 2020-2021 because of the COVID situation. So they could not take place during the biennium and were postponed to 2022. So the costs have been shifted to the year 2022. And so this budget, supplementary budget, was also adopted by the COPs, and it is expected to be funded. It is to be funded by savings that were made under the current biennium due to the COVID-19 situation. So funded only from savings. On the matter of budgets, the COPs also requested the Secretariat to prepare a revised budget proposal for the biennium 2022-2023, which is to include information on savings and submit also in full consultation with parties a proposal on the allocation of savings for the consideration of the COPs at the face-to-face segment. So there will be a revised budget proposal going forward for the face-to-face segment. Now the next slide shows other main outcomes of the online segment. One main outcome of the segment that relates to the three conventions is the decision on the venue and dates of the resumed meetings of the COPs. So the three COPs decided on the dates and venue of the face-to-face segment of their meetings. This segment would then, according to the decision, be held from the 6th to the 17th of June 2022 in Geneva. Together with the decision on the when and where the face-to-face segment would take place, the COPs also agreed on the continuation of the intersessional work under the conventions in the year 2022. So work can continue in 2022 until new decisions are adopted by the COPs, giving new mandates for the work to be done that is expected to be done during the face-to-face segment in June 2022. Now turning to the more specific outcomes of the Rotterdam Convention COP10. The COP10 elected 15 members of the Rotterdam Convention Compliance Committee. And on the matter of election, it also extended until the closing of its 10th meeting the terms of office of 17 members of the Chemical Review Committee, whose terms of office would have otherwise ended on the 30th of April 2022. So those are more specific outcomes linked to the Rotterdam COP10 on elections. Now, for the in connection with the Stockholm Convention COP10, there were specific outcomes, in particular related to elections. So the COP10 elected 10 members of its Effectiveness Evaluation Committee. And it also extended until the closing of its 10th meeting the terms of office of the 17 members of the Persistent Organic Pollutant Review Committee. Otherwise, the terms of those members would have ended on the 4th of May 2022, which was before the face-to-face segment of the COP. That was all in agreement with what the bureaus had proposed to the COPs. Then on the financial mechanism, the Stockholm COP10, among other things, agreed to forward the fifth review of the financial mechanism, together with the report on assessment of funding needs for the convention for the period 2022-2026 to the GEF, the Global Environment Facility, to inform the ongoing negotiations regarding the aid replenishment. So that is specific to the Stockholm Convention. So now looking ahead and looking at the upcoming face-to-face segment of the meetings, as said before and in accordance with the COP decisions, the face-to-face segment will take place in Geneva at the International Conference Center in Geneva, CICG, the usual venue we have for the BRS COPs. In June, so from the 6th to the 17th of June 2022, so over a 2-week, the traditional 2-week period. The COPs during their face-to-face segment are expected to consider all the items of their agendas that were not considered or concluded during the online segment, and therefore were deferred to that online segment. The schedule of work of that segment, together with other arrangements for the meetings, including the high-level segments, will be agreed by the bureaus who are expected to meet later this year or at the latest early 2022, taking into account also the situation with respect to the COVID-19. Now, before going into more details about the face-to-face segment, we also would like to highlight indeed elements regarding the continuation of the intersessional work, because it's a very important element of the work that is going on now under the conventions between the two segments, because of the particularity of having the two segments. So at their online segment, the COPs were informed and took note of modalities for the continuation of the intersessional work between the two segments, and that was outlined in an information document that is mentioned on the slide. So in that document, indeed, you have modalities for continuation of work under all the decisions of the 2020-19 COPs. And in addition to this information, you had also proposals for calls, for information, for comments on ongoing processes or products that would be considered by the COPs at the face-to-face segment. And so the proposal for calls for comments also had extended deadlines by which parties and observers can submit this information. So these various calls for information and comments were also sent out in follow-up letters after the online segment to all parties and observers for information. And they have been summarized on this slide and the next slide for ease of reference. So you would see indeed for Basel that there are a number of calls for comments or information, and parties and observers are invited to contribute to providing those information on final products or developments that are happening under the conventions, for example, proposed amendments. So we invite you to take note of those. So that's for the Basel Convention. For the Rotterdam Convention, as you can see on the slide, you have two calls or invitation for information. For the Stockholm Convention, you have 4 that are laid out on the slide, and for joint issues, you have 2 of them. So this basically is the modalities for the continuation of the intersessional work as to how parties and observers can continue to contribute to the work. But in addition to calls for information and comments, as you already know, groups, either subsidiary bodies or other groups under the conventions will also continue to meet between the two segments. And on that slide, we put a number of planned meetings. So for example, you have the Chemical Review Committee that met during its 7th meeting last week. It met online from the 20th to the 24th of September. There is also the Basel Convention Implementation and Compliance Committee, which is to resume its 14th meeting in part 4 It will meet online from the 15th to the 18th of November of this year. The persistent organic pollutant is also planning to meet for its 17th meeting online or face-to-face in January 2022. So the specific dates and format are not yet decided, but will be decided by the Bureau in the coming weeks. And as soon as this is decided, this will be widely communicated to parties and observers. As mentioned before, the bureaus are also expected to meet towards the end of the year or early next year. And among the subsidiary bodies under the conventions, you have also the open-ended working group, which is the 12th meeting of the open-ended working group, which is also scheduled to convene its face-to-face segment in Nairobi as a standalone meeting, either in April or May 2022. And the exact dates would be determined by the OEWG Bureau, which is expected to meet soon in October or November of this year. So those are some of the meetings that will take place in the coming months, but you have more groups meeting, and we invite you to consult our meeting calendars for a more comprehensive view of all the processes that are still ongoing under the conventions toward the COPs, face-to-face segment of the COPs in June next year. So this was on the intersessional work. Now turning again on the matter of preparations for the face-to-face segment of the COPs. As you might know, most meeting documents actually for the COPs have already been posted on the convention's websites. In accordance with the rules of procedures, working documents have to be made available 2 months in advance for Basel and 6 weeks in advance for Rotterdam and Stockholm. So since the meetings opened officially during the online segment, all the working documents on all issues of the agendas have been posted already and are therefore available now. This is to be noted that a limited number of working documents will be revised for the face-to-face segment, in particular to reflect the outcomes of the online segment on some of the issues, for example, the budget. So the document on budget would be obviously revised. In addition to revisions to working documents, there would be also new documents. For example, the tentative schedule of work of the face-to-face segment would be a new document to be developed, as well as the scenario note for the meetings. So those are specific documents that will be made available for the face-to-face segment. With regard to INF documents, so a number of them are already available on the websites, but some of them were delayed, benefiting, from this additional time that we have available. So information documents will now become available on our website. The main deadline basically for the dissemination of documents is 2 months in advance. So we try to apply this deadline for all BRS COPs documents. So all documents will be then available to parties and observers by the 6th of April 2022. And with regard to budget documents, there is another deadline, which is 90 days before the meetings. So meaning that for the budget documents, they would be available around the 7th of March 2022. So this would be in accordance with the rules of procedure as well. At the face-to-face segment, as you know, there would be some elections to be conducted. So this slide shows you the remaining elections that need to take place during the face-to-face segment. So under the Basel Convention, we have four bodies that are expected to conduct their elections: the Rotterdam 2 and under Stockholm 2. So as you might know, the COPs entrusted the bureaus to facilitate the nomination process for candidates to elections with the support of the Secretariat. So initially, the bureaus had asked for nominations of candidates to be submitted by the 18th of April 2021, when we were still in the format of having the meetings in July face-to-face. But following the developments and the meetings are taking place in two parts, in two segments, now the deadlines for putting forward nominees, candidates for elections is the 1st of March 2022. So this gives indeed sufficient time for the regional focal points on elections to have further consultations on the issues of elections, either during the, for example, before or during the regional preparatory meetings. So this deadline is indeed intended to facilitate regional consultations on candidates prior to the face-to-face segment. So you find more information about the elections and deadlines for submitting candidates on the follow-up, in the follow-up letters that were sent after the online segment. So that's now for the more preparing for registration and credentials, because of the exceptional format of the meeting. We already wanted to give you a heads up about how this will be organized. So for registration, at the time of the online segment, it was possible for parties and observers to register for both parts of the meeting, so to register for the meetings in general. And so if your delegation have registered for both parts of the meetings or the meetings in general, then the nominations will be valid for the face-to-face segment. So this is important to note. And the same apply to credentials. So similar approach applied to credentials. If you had submitted credentials for both segments, then the credentials you had submitted for the face-to-face segment will remain valid. However, there would be opportunities offered to either update those nominations or credentials or to provide new nominations, and that will be all explained in the invitation letters that will be sent around the time of February 2022, so that parties also have this opportunity indeed to change their delegation, given that the two parts of the meetings were held in a quite far different time, obviously, so delegations might change. Now, this is my last slide before the end of the presentation. So this is just to say that there will be preparations ongoing also for the face-to-face segment, as we always do. In particular, there would be the regional preparatory meeting that will be held in a face-to-face format during the period of April-May 2022. So we are also preparing for that together with the bureaus. In addition to the traditional regional preparatory meeting, there will be also global webinars being organized closer to the dates of the meetings. And in general, you would also find updated updates on preparations, on information for the meetings on the meeting website. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation and invite you to share any